Arizona Territory, 1882. The winter sun cast long shadows across the frozen ground as two men fled on the stolen horses. Gunshots cracked the morning silence. One, two, three. Precise. Deadly. The first rider jerked backward, tumbling from his saddle. The second managed another 50 yards before a bullet found him. Ethan Blackwood lowered his Springfield rifle, the barrel still smoking in the cold air. 42 years had weathered his face like tan leather. Eyes narrowed beneath the brim of his hat as he surveyed his handiwork without pleasure. Horse thieves, second pair this month. He collected their weapons, a Colt revolver and a cheap shotgun, before sending their horses running. The bodies he left for the coyotes. Justice was swift in this territory. It had to be. 3 hours later, Ethan stood on his porch, Springfield resting against his shoulder, watching the horizon where his land stretched toward distant mountains. 6 years alone had taught him to listen to the wind, to read the clouds, to sense danger before it arrived. His ranch sat 3 days' hard ride from the nearest settlement. Redemption, they called it. A name full of promises never kept. "Ain't much for redemption out here," he muttered to his bay stallion tethered nearby. The horse snorted agreement, breath fogging in the bitter cold. The north fence always needed mending. Something about the soil there. Too rocky, posts never set right. Ethan had been putting it off, but that morning, something pulled him there. Not reason, just instinct. The kind that had kept him alive through the war and 15 winters since. He found it by the broken section, a small body curled against the base of a fence post. At first, he took it for a dead coyote pup. Then it moved, barely, a boy, Apache by the looks of him. Couldn't be more than 6 years old. Ethan's hands settled on his holstered Colt out of habit. He scanned the horizon, searching for signs of a trap. Nothing moved in any direction. The child lay barefoot in threadbare buckskins, his small body trembling with each shallow breath. Kneeling, Ethan pressed 2 fingers against the boy's neck. Pulse weak, skin cold. He rolled the child gently, revealing a dark stain on his shoulder. Blood, half frozen. Ethan carefully cut away the fabric with his hunting knife. "God damn," he whispered. The wound was a .45 caliber, Army Colt, standard issue. His jaw tightened. This wasn't some tribal skirmish. This was military. A memory flashed, 1864, him in Union blue watching helplessly as his commanding officer ordered the slaughter of an Apache camp. Women, children. The screams never quite left him. Ethan hesitated, caught between the past he couldn't change and a present demanding decision. Taking in an Apache child meant trouble, the kind that ended with rope or bullets. The boy's eyes fluttered open briefly, dark, terrified, feverish. Something in Ethan's chest shifted. "All right then," he said to the wind. He shrugged off his buffalo coat and wrapped it carefully around the child. The boy weighed nothing in his arms as Ethan mounted his horse and turned toward home. By the third day, the boy, Dakota, Ethan had taken to calling him after an Apache scout he'd once known, was improving. The bullet had gone clean through, missing anything vital. Fever broke on the second night. Still, he hadn't spoken a word, just watched Ethan with wary eyes that followed his every move. That morning, Ethan guided the boy's small hands as they fed oats to the stallion. "Like that," he said. "Flat palm. He won't bite." The boy didn't smile, but his shoulders relaxed slightly. Dawn on the 4th day, Ethan woke suddenly, hand already reaching for the Winchester beside his bed. Something wasn't right. He loaded the rifle with practiced efficiency, 5 rounds, the brass casings glinting in the half-light. The boy slept by the stove, bundled in furs. Outside, Ethan moved like a shadow along the cabin wall. Years of tracking had taught him to feel eyes watching. Someone was out there. He spotted them on the ridge above his property, 3 figures standing motionless against the pale sky. Women, Apache. One tall and strong-looking, another slender and hunched slightly, the third younger with loose dark hair catching the wind. Ethan waited, rifle ready but not raised. If they wanted to attack, they'd have done it while he slept. They approached slowly, stopping 30 yards out. The tallest stepped forward alone. She wore a deerskin dress patched with leather, a knife visible at her belt. Her face was proud, defiant, eyes that had seen too much hardship. "You have our son," she said in clear English. No question, just fact. Ethan's jaw tightened. Boy was half dead. Army bullet in his shoulder. Something flickered across her face. Pain, relief, something else. "My name is Kiona." "Ethan Blackwood." She studied him, measuring the man against his reputation. "The marksman from Tennessee, the one they called Ghost Eyes during the war." He didn't ask how she knew. Word traveled, even out here. "We need him back," she said. Ethan nodded toward the cabin. "He's inside. Fever broke. Wounds clean." She held his gaze. "They will come for us. Captain Westbrook and his men." "Army?" "Once, not anymore." Her voice hardened. "They slaughtered our village, burned everything, all for silver found on our land." Ethan felt the familiar weight in his chest. Some things never changed. 43 dead, Kiona continued. "We hid Takoto under brush when they came. By the time we circled back, he was gone. We've been tracking for 6 days. The youngest woman stepped forward, hand on her knife. "We should go. Now." Her eyes burned with hatred as she looked at Ethan. "Ayanna," Kiona warned. "Not yet." The older woman, gray streaking her braids, spoke in Apache, her voice low and urgent. Kiona nodded, then turned to Ethan. "Nahimana says snow is coming. Big storm." As if summoned, wind gusted across the yard, carrying the first flakes. Ethan looked at the 3 women, exhausted, hunted, desperate. The decision formed itself before he recognized it. "Storm like that'll kill you out there," he said flatly. "Got room in the barn, food enough, till weather breaks." Kiona's eyes widened slightly. Surprise, suspicion. "Why would you help us?" Ayanna spat. Ethan's gaze drifted to the distant mountains where memory lived. "Got my reasons." The storm howled through the night, rattling windows and piling snow against the cabin walls. Inside, tension ran thick as molasses. The boy Dakota had recognized the women immediately, rushing into Kiona's arms without a sound. Now he slept beside her near the stove. Ethan sat in his chair, rifle across his lap, not pointed at anyone, but ready. Old habits. "How long you figure that storm lasts?" he asked. Nahimana, the eldest, studied the frost forming on the window. 3 days, maybe 4. Ethan nodded. "Got rules here. You work, you eat. No trouble, no questions. When weather clears, you go your way, I go mine." Kiona translated for the others, though Ethan suspected they understood more than they let on. "We accept," she said. By morning, 8 inches of snow covered the ground, with more falling. Ethan showed Kiona how to work the pump without it freezing. She learned quick, adaptable. He noticed her hands, strong but graceful, scarred along the knuckles, hands that had fought. Ayanna remained hostile, keeping distance, watching him like a hawk. The boy stayed close to her or Kiona, still silent but eyes tracking everything. Nahimana proved useful immediately, identifying a problem with one of the horses Ethan had missed. She had knowledge in her bones. 3 days passed in uneasy alliance. The women took to ranch work naturally, chopping wood, tending animals, patching holes in the barn roof. Ethan taught Dakota to carve simple shapes with a dull knife. The boy made a small horse, rough but recognizable. On the 4th morning, with the storm finally breaking, Ethan rode to Redemption for supplies. The town consisted of one muddy street lined with false-fronted buildings, general store, saloon, sheriff's office, and a small church nobody used except for funerals. Inside Fleming's general store, conversation stopped as Ethan entered. He ignored the stares, placing his order with Old Man Fleming: ammunition, coffee, salt, sugar. "Heard you had some trouble with horse thieves," Fleming said, measuring coffee beans. "Nothing worth talking about." Fleming leaned closer. "Army's been through, looking for Apaches. Renegades, they say. Attacked a supply wagon." He lowered his voice. "Offering $500 a scalp." Ethan's face remained stone. "That's so. Captain leading them's a hard one. Westbrook. Brought his own men, not regular army. More like hired guns with uniforms." Ethan paid and loaded his supplies. At the saloon, he stopped for whiskey. One glass, no more. The place stank of unwashed bodies and spilled beer. That's where he saw them. 5 men in partial army uniform, gathered around a back table. The one with captain's bars had cold eyes and a scar running from temple to jaw. Beside him sat a man Ethan recognized immediately. Knife Jackson, known for collecting Apache scalps during the war. Westbrook caught Ethan staring. "Problem, friend?" "No problem." Ethan finished his whiskey in one swallow. Jackson studied him. "Know you from somewhere?" "Don't believe so." "Yeah, I do." His eyes narrowed. "Tennessee. Sharpshooter. Heard you could hit a man at 800 yards. That was a long time ago." Westbrook smiled without warmth. "We could use a man with your skills, Blackwood, hunting vermin." "I hunt my own troubles." Ethan set down his glass and left without looking back. Halfway home, he felt it. Eyes on him. He dismounted casually, pretending to check his horse's shoe. In one fluid motion, he drew his Colt and spun. "Come out," he commanded. Knife Jackson stepped from behind a boulder, grinning. "Sharp as they say." "Following me's a good way to get dead." Jackson spat tobacco juice. "Saw Apache tracks near your property line. Fresh ones. My land. My business. Those savages killed 15 good men." Jackson's hand rested on his pistol. "Army's paying good money." "Not interested. Maybe you're harboring them." Jackson's voice turned dangerous. "That'd make you a traitor." The tension stretched between them like a bowstring. Jackson's fingers twitched. Ethan didn't blink. "You draw that pistol. You better be faster than you look." Jackson went for his gun. Ethan's Colt barked once, twice. Jackson staggered, surprise in his eyes, then collapsed. Ethan checked the body. Dead. He dragged it into a ravine and covered it with rocks. Westbrook would come looking when Jackson didn't return. Time had just run out. "We leave tomorrow," Ethan announced, entering the cabin. Blood spattered his coat, not his. Kiona saw it immediately. "What happened?" "Westbrook's man found tracks. Won't be reporting back." The cabin exploded into motion. Ayana grabbed a knife. Nahimana gathered the few possessions they had. Takota pressed himself against Kiona's side. "Stop," Ethan commanded. "Running now gets you killed. Westbrook has at least 4 men left. They'll be watching trails." "Then what?" Ayana demanded. "We fight here. On my terms." Silence fell as his words registered. "We? Why would you die for us?" Kiona asked. Ethan met her gaze. "Same reason I didn't leave that boy to die. Some debts can't be paid any other way." That night he taught the women to shoot. Kiona took to the Winchester like she'd been born with it. Ayana preferred the shotgun. Less accurate, more damage. Even Nahimana learned to handle the old army Colt. They worked through the night, setting traps around the property, tripwires, noisemakers, deadfalls. Ethan dug out his war supplies, dynamite, extra ammunition, a second rifle. Dawn came gray and threatening. More snow on the horizon. "They'll come at first light tomorrow," Ethan said, using the storm for cover. Nahimana approached with a small bowl of dark paste. Without speaking, she drew symbols on Ethan's forehead and cheeks with her thumb. "Warrior marks," Kiona explained. "She honors you as Apache." That evening, as the others slept in short shifts, Kiona found Ethan on the porch, watching the darkness. "My husband was chief," she said quietly. "He died first when they came, standing, facing them." Ethan nodded. Respect needed no words. "If we survive tomorrow," she continued, "what then?" "Haven't thought that far ahead. The boy needs a father." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Had a wife once. Lost her to fever. Never had children. Yet you saved mine." Something passed between them. Not romance. Something deeper. Recognition. Survivors who understood loss. Before dawn, Ethan felt it. Movement in the darkness. He whistled once, sharp. Everyone took positions. Kiona at the barn with the rifle. Ayana upstairs with the shotgun. Nahimana inside with Dakota, ready to flee through the hidden cellar door if needed. The first shot came as a thin line of light appeared on the horizon. A warning, hitting the water barrel. "Blackwood!" Westbrook's voice carried across the yard. "Send out the savages and you walk away." Ethan's response was a single rifle shot that shattered the lantern beside Westbrook. The attack came from three sides at once. Gunfire erupted, rifles cracking, pistols barking. Ethan dropped the first man as he crossed the open ground. Kiona's shot took another in the chest. Two men reached the porch. Ethan met them with his Colt, firing twice. One fell. The other made it inside, knife drawn. They grappled, crashing into furniture. The man was strong, blade inching toward Ethan's throat. A shot rang out. The man collapsed, revealing Dakota holding the small derringer Ethan kept hidden in a boot. "Run!" Ethan shouted, pushing the boy toward Nahimana. Outside, Ayana's shotgun blasted, followed by a scream, then silence. Ethan reloaded, counting bullets. 3 left. A familiar voice called from the yard. "Ethan, it's Frank!" Sergeant Frank Cooper. They'd served together. Last he'd heard, Frank was working for the territorial governor. "Come out slow," Ethan called. Frank appeared, hands raised. "Westbrook's gone crazy. This isn't army business. It's personal. That silver mine's worth a fortune. You with him or against him? I came to warn you. He's got 8 men left. They're coming at daybreak." Frank's eyes pleaded. "Give him the Apaches. Save yourself." Ethan's rifle didn't waver. "We were friends, Frank, so I'll give you till sundown to ride away." "They'll kill you." "Maybe. Now go." After Frank disappeared, Ethan counted their ammunition. Not enough. Not nearly. Full daylight revealed 3 bodies in the yard, 2 more in the house. Westbrook had retreated but would be back, stronger. They worked methodically, digging fighting positions, setting the last of the dynamite at key points, moving supplies to the root cellar as a final fallback. Ayana had taken a bullet through her leg. Nahimana dressed it with herbs and tight bandages. The young woman refused to stop working, dragging herself around to help prepare. As dusk approached, Ethan placed Dakota in the cellar with food and water. "Stay quiet," he instructed, "no matter what you hear." The boy grabbed his arm. "Will you die?" His first words in halting English. Ethan looked into those dark eyes. "Not planning on it, son." They came with the moon. Dark shapes moving through shadows. Ethan counted at least 10, more than expected. The first trap triggered, a tripwire releasing a deadfall of logs. Screams erupted. Gunfire exploded from all sides. Bullets splintered wood and shattered glass. Ethan fired methodically, each shot finding its mark. Kiona provided covering fire from the barn. Ayana defended the back entrance. A dynamite blast rocked the night, taking 2 men with it, then another. The shooting paused. In the silence, hoofbeats approached. A single rider. Frank? They forced me, Ethan. I'm sorry. A shot rang out, not from Ethan's position. Frank slumped forward, revealing Westbrook behind him, pistol smoking. Touching reunion, Westbrook called. But I'm losing patience. Gunfire erupted again. A bullet caught Ethan in the shoulder, spinning him around. He fell against the porch railing. From the corner of his eye, he saw Westbrook breaking for the barn, toward Kiona. With his good arm, Ethan raised the Springfield, steadied his breath, and squeezed the trigger. At 100 yards in moonlight, with a wounded shoulder, an impossible shot. Westbrook staggered, clutching his chest. Kiona emerged from the shadows, knife glinting. Their voices were too distant to hear, but Ethan saw her mouth moving. Last words for a dying man. The knife fell once, ending Westbrook's chapter. The remaining men fled into the darkness. Dawn revealed the cost. The barn half collapsed, the cabin riddled with bullets, blood darkening the snow. But they had survived, all of them. They buried Frank with military honors. Rifle salute, folded flag Ethan had kept from his service. The other bodies they burned far from the house. A week later, as the worst of their wounds healed, Ayanna announced she was leaving. Others survived. I will find them. Her eyes, once full of hatred, now held something like respect when she looked at Ethan. But I will return. Nahamana chose to stay. Too old to wander, she said, though Ethan suspected she simply recognized a home when she found one. As for Kiona, she stood beside Ethan on the porch, watching Ayanna disappear over the ridge. The land will be ours? She asked. My deed, your knowledge. Ethan gestured toward the distant mountains. No one bothers us out here until the next Westbrook comes. Then we fight again. She nodded, understanding. This wasn't about romance. It was about survival, honor, building something worth defending. Dakota joined them, standing between them naturally. The boy who hadn't spoken for days now pointed excitedly at an eagle circling overhead. Father, he said suddenly, looking at Ethan, is that right? To call you this? Ethan's throat tightened. He placed a hand on the boy's shoulder and glanced at Kiona, who nodded once. That's right, son. His eyes turned to the horizon, where their land stretched endless under the winter sky. This is our land now, the land of honor. In the distance, barely visible, dust rose from a line of wagons heading toward the mountains. More settlers, more miners. The next challenge already approaching. Ethan's hand tightened on Dakota's shoulder. They would be ready